In the quiet hours of the night, when the hospital was lulled into a deceptive calm, something shocking shattered the peace. A wild bear burst through the front doors, causing an immediate stir. The once peaceful hallways, filled with quiet talks and the steady beeping of medical equipment, suddenly buzzed with fear and confusion. In the midst of the chaos was Hana, a young nurse known for her composure in tough situations. As her colleagues scattered in all directions, seeking refuge, Hana found herself rooted to the spot. What the heck was going on? However, in the midst of the chaos, Hana spotted something that stood out. The bear had something in its mouth, something small and definitely not typical for a bear to carry. As soon as the bear was spotted, hospital security jumped into action, calling for an evacuation right away. "Everyone, please proceed to the nearest exit calmly," they shouted, their voices firm yet reassuring, cutting through the air. The surge of adrenaline from the earlier moment was nothing compared to what Hana felt next. Her heart hammered in her chest with an intensity that drowned out everything else. With a resolve that surprised even herself, Hana made her decision. She would lead the bear into a nearby room, hoping to contain the situation and buy some time to think. The plan, formed on the spur of the moment, worked better than she dared hope. For a brief moment, there was silence, a deceptive calm before the storm. Then, the atmosphere shifted palpably. The bear's eyes, once filled with a kind of wary understanding, now glinted with a fierce, untamed light. Its body stiffened, muscles coiling like springs ready to unleash. Hana pressed her back against the door she had just shut. She could feel the change. Her breath caught in her throat as she watched the transformation unfold. In a flash of insight, Hana shrank her stature, trying to appear as non-threatening as possible. "I'm not your enemy," she silently conveyed through her softened gaze and slow movements, hoping the animal would sense her desire to help. Hana quickly understood that the bear's aggressive actions weren't meant to be harmful. It was evident the bear, along with the small creature it protected, needed assistance, whether from her or a professional veterinarian. Hana carefully slipped out of the room and dashed down the hospital corridors. All around her, chaos reigned as doctors and patients alike scrambled for safety, their faces etched with panic. Eventually, she stumbled upon a room where several doctors had sought refuge. Approaching them, urgency threaded through every word she spoke. "Please, we have to help them," she pleaded, desperate to convince them to check on the bear and its unexpected companion. However, her plea was met with reluctance. The doctors looked at each other with unease, their hesitation visible in their awkward movements and the tense silence that followed her request. The police had been notified. One of them finally responded, his voice steady but his eyes avoiding Hana's intense gaze. "There's nothing more we can do." Hana's heart sank. The plea in her voice grew more desperate as she attempted to sway them. "But we can't just wait." Finally, her persistence paid off when she found Steve, one of her closest colleagues and a skilled surgeon, known not just for his medical expertise but for his courage and compassion. Steve, upon hearing Hana's plea, saw the determination in her eyes and agreed to help without a moment's hesitation. "Let's see what we can do," he said, his voice a mix of resolve and curiosity. The vet asked her to describe the creature. Hana did her best, mentioning every detail she noticed. After she finished, there was another silence on the line. In that quiet moment, Hana realized something troubling. The vet didn't know any more about the mysterious creature than she did. Even so, he understood the situation was serious, especially as Hana explained how the creature's condition was getting worse. Suddenly, Hana was startled by the bear's loud, sad roar. Its powerful cry filled the room, making the urgency of the moment even clearer. Right at that tense moment, the room's door flew open as police officers rushed in, their footsteps loud against the hard floor. They scanned the room quickly, their eyes alert and focused, ensuring no one was in immediate danger. "Everyone, please stay calm," one officer announced, his voice authoritative yet reassuring. Cutting through the whizzah, Hana, her heart pounding in her chest, stepped forward. "Please, keep your distance," she pleaded, her voice firm but laced with urgency. She gestured towards the bear and its companion, indicating the delicacy of the situation. Just as Hana was negotiating with the police officers, something completely unexpected happened. The bear, which until now had been a bundle of tense energy and guarded caution, began to move. With deliberate steps, it walked towards the door, its movements purposeful and clear. Hana's eyes widened in surprise. The bear's behavior was so out of character from the aggressive posture it had initially shown. It seemed as though it was inviting her, urging her to follow. "Look, it wants us to follow," Hana said softly, her voice filled with wonder. The police officers, upon witnessing the bear's unexpected movement, hesitated, their hands instinctively reaching for their belts, ready for any threat. "Ma'am," "It's not safe," one officer cautioned, his voice edged with concern, reflecting the uncertainty of the situation. Despite their doubts, Hana was determined. "I'll be careful," she promised, moving towards the bear slowly but confidently. The officers, still hesitant, decided to stay back and watch her closely. The bear quickly led Hana away from the hospital and into the woods. With trembling fingers, Hana pulled out her phone and dialed Peter's number, a friendly animal expert. When Peter answered, his voice was a reassuring presence in the middle of all the uncertainty. "Hana, what's going on?" he asked, genuine concern in his tone. Hana, breathing fast, quickly told Peter about the extraordinary events of the night. "Peter, a wild bear has brought me into the woods. It has something with it, and I can't leave it behind." There was a short silence from Peter, and Hana could almost sense his worry growing. "Hana, it's great you want to help, but please be careful," he said. "Stay put," Peter urged. "I'll come to you as quickly as I can, and we'll figure this out together." As the bear delved deeper into the thick woods, Hana's anxiety grew more intense. A creeping feeling of being observed sent shivers down her spine, and every rustle of leaves in the shadows felt foreboding. She could hear strange sounds in the distance. Hana's phone buzzed with a call, but the signal was weak, turning the vet's voice into a garbled mess. She could barely make out his words, but it sounded like he was telling her to come back. Now, Hana faced a crucial decision: follow the bear further or listen to the vet and turn back. After a moment of hesitation, Hana's courage kicked in. She chose to chase after the mysterious sounds, feeling she was getting closer to uncovering something important. The deeper she went, the denser the forest became, and a strong feeling told her she wasn't alone. It felt like eyes were watching her every move. Her heart pounded with fear until, out of nowhere, a voice in the distance called out her name. However, the bear, not knowing Peter, acted on its instincts and started to rush towards him. Realizing the danger in a flash, Hana quickly stepped in front of Peter, ready to protect him. Miraculously, the bear stopped its charge right before reaching them, avoiding a confrontation at the very last moment. Hana's sudden intervention, coupled with the visible relief on her face, seemed to communicate to the bear that Peter was not a threat but a potential ally. With a subtle change in its stance, the bear turned away, suggesting that both Hana and Peter should follow its lead. The sudden charge of the bear left Peter in a state of shock, causing him to stumble and fall to the ground. Gasping for breath, he turned to Hana, his eyes wide with confusion and concern, and asked urgently, "What's going on? What are we chasing here?" Hana, her own heart still racing from the encounter, shook her head, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "I have no idea, Peter." As they ventured deeper, the distressed noises she had been hearing earlier grew louder with every step, creating an ominous soundtrack to their journey. The sound seemed to reverberate through the trees, and the tension in the air became palpable. Finally, they reached the origin of the noises, standing at the edge of an old, weathered well. Their eyes widened in realization. Something had fallen down the well, and the distressing noises were coming from within its depths. The bear, with an almost knowing look, hinted that this was where it wanted Hana and Peter to lend their assistance. In a stroke of luck, Peter had brought a strong rope with him. He then took a deep breath and began to lower himself over the well's edge. Hana clutched the rope tightly, realizing that their journey into the well's enigmatic depths was underway. "Hana, you've got to see this," Peter's voice echoed up from the well, mixed with shock and a hint of fear. "The bear. Maybe it was leading us here on purpose." Peter's voice trembled, his words echoing off the damp walls of the well. "It seems like it wanted us to find these creatures, trapped down here." The small creatures moved in the shadows, their eyes reflecting the light and creating an eerie glow. One thing was for certain: these were not bear cubs. Peter continued, his voice laced with concern. "Remember the one you told about at the hospital? It was injured, right? Seeing these ones here, they might be in trouble too. They fell in and can't get out. We can't just leave them here." Hana's heart pounded as she shouted down to Peter, "I'm going to get both you and these creatures out of there. Just hang on." She knew she had to come up with a plan, and fast. Looking around desperately, she spotted a large tree nearby. An idea sparked: she could use it to anchor the rope. In a panic, Peter's hands shook as he pulled out his phone, desperately trying to turn on the flashlight. The darkness around him was thick, pressing in from all sides. With a click, a beam of light sliced through the black, revealing the deep, hidden spaces of the well below him. His eyes went wide with fear as the light touched the corners of the abyss, and suddenly, the strange noises he'd been hearing became clearer. He could hear the tiny skittering and whispers of movement echoing off the stone walls. With a pounding heart, he pointed the flashlight towards the unsettling sounds, his breath catching in his throat. The light revealed dozens of tiny, glowing eyes staring back at him. The creatures, unknown and eerie, seemed to squirm and move in the shadows. Peter could barely breathe as he realized he wasn't alone down here. The sight of these creatures with their eyes shining in the light sent shivers down his spine. But then, a realization dawned on him. She rushed over and looped the rope around the tree, pulling it taut and tying a triple knot. Satisfied it would hold, she called down, "Peter, I've secured the rope. Start handing up the creatures one by one. I'll make sure they're safe." Peter's reply echoed from Plism the well. "Got it. Here comes the first one." Hana watched with bated breath as a small furry creature emerged from the darkness, clutched gently in Peter's hands. "You're okay now, little guy," she whispered. Hana created a warm, soft area for the animals to recover. One by one, more emerged from the well as Peter made trip after trip down the rope. The air was thick with tension as Peter and Hana pondered their next move. They could each take 2 of the creatures, but that left one with no one to look after it. Suddenly, an idea struck them. "The bear," Hana blurted out, her voice tinged with surprise at the thought that had just occurred to her. "It can carry the last one," she remembered, her eyes widening. "I saw it with my own eyes, how it brought the first creature into the hospital." With renewed hope, Hana and Peter quickly gathered the tiny creatures into their makeshift carriers. The bear stood nearby, its eyes attentive and posture ready. Gently, Hana lifted the last fuzzy animal and placed it into the bear's waiting mouth. The bear clamped down softly, its jaw tender yet secure around the precious cargo. Hurriedly, the unlikely trio made their way out of the dark forest, moving swiftly back towards the hospital. Though a veterinarian would have been their first choice for the creature's peculiar needs, the reality of their situation pointed them elsewhere. The hospital, with its bright lights and promise of care, was not only closer but also the most feasible option given they were on foot. The urgency of the moment left no room for second guessing. Adding to their decision was the fact that the 6th tiny creature, the one that had initially led them to the woods, was already there. Bursting into the ER, Hana called out urgently for help. To her relief, a seasoned veterinarian stood ready, his experienced eyes quickly assessing the situation. After a while, the vet swung open the door and welcomed them inside with a smile. He informed them that they had arrived just in time, and their efforts had succeeded in saving the animals. It turned out that these animals were a rare crossbreed between a wild dog and a bear. The vet couldn't determine how they ended up inside the well, nor why the bear would try to help them. His guess was that the bear might have recently lost her own cubs, and her motherly instincts transferred onto the strange crossbreed pups. In the days that followed, Hana found herself drawn to these pups, their bond growing stronger with each passing visit. As she spent time with them, she felt a sense of warmth and affection envelop her, filling her heart with joy. It was a stark contrast to the fear and uncertainty she had felt on that fateful night in the forest. Reflecting on her journey, Hana knew she had made the right choice in following the bear into the unknown. It had led her to a place of unexpected happiness, a world where love and gratitude flowed freely from her newfound furry friends. And as she looked into their eyes, she knew she had found not just companionship, but a profound connection that would last a lifetime. Hana's brave choice to follow the bear turned fear into a heartwarming discovery. It showed how kindness can connect different worlds, leading to a bond between humans and animals that was both unexpected and deeply moving.